Welcome to the Washdown podcast, episode 157. And James and Chris and I had a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment. Here you go. Episode 157 of the Washdown podcast.
All crews stand by for emergency traffic. All crews stand by for emergency traffic.
That's the unit with the mayday. Go ahead with your traffic.
I'll just let the tape roll because it's going to be, I'm assuming we're going to go off the rails at some point.
Nah, I do agree with what he's saying. Don't get me wrong. I agree.
We need
Okay.
we need
Just
the
want things
guest.
to be
We need
fair.
the guest on. I think sometimes I don't realize how much the guest keeps us on track.
On track. Yeah. Well, there is that because we do. I mean, look,
It's not hard to get off track, man.
it's just like if we were sitting around the kitchen table at the station talking about shit, we would be going all over the place and we would be playing those type of games of I'm just going to say the most opposite thing possible just to see what the reaction is.
Yeah.
And then 5 hours later, we may or may not have solved the problem.
So the problem always gets solved. It just might not be the solution you're looking for.
It's all about throwing rocks in the crowd. See what I hit.
Ripples in the pond.
All right. So, question today, submitted by a viewer, aka me.
You're not even a viewer. You don't even watch the show.
I mean,
All right, submitted by an anonymous viewer. What should be industry standards for disqualification from application or just employment in a fire service?
Well, I mean,
I'll say criminal record. You got to look at it as a whole.
yeah, I mean, criminal record for sure. And we talked about a minute ago, physical fitness and all that stuff, the ability to physically do the job. But I know the direction that you want to go, James, is mental health, right? Doing some kind of psych test to see. Now, here's my question to that. How accurate are those tests? Are they a good indicator? And let's say you score high on the trauma scale, right? Because most people coming into the fire service and the police department, they're probably going to score a little bit higher than average, because that's usually a driving factor of why we want to be in these career fields anyway. So let's say you score too high on the trauma scale or considered too high. Now you're not going to get employed just because of a number from a test that may or may not be a good indicator.
So we've then established, and we are in agreement then that is subjective, correct?
Yes.
And one could make the argument that with criminal record, it could be subjective because there are, at the end of the day, there are underlining factors of was this a crime of passion? Was this a crime of necessity? Do we want to, the 18-year-old minority kid that was stealing to help his low-income family that now has a record, do we want to disqualify that? If we look at it from a simple numbers perspective, we could easily make a black and white line that says increased liability, decreased liability, and we only hire the decreased liability. There are police officers, firefighters, nurses that have been sexually assaulted as children, that have been beaten as children, that have lost parents, siblings in traumatic events, that have a pretty significant backload of mental health challenges that usually have not been addressed properly, and a lot of it was just due to the time that it happened. Our age of people, when that stuff happened to us as kids, the treatment back then, the recognition of it alone back then, let alone, was not enough to be able to treat that. Thus, we get into the fire service, law enforcement, healthcare, and now these things catch up with us, and now your department is, at worst, pensioning people off, which is hurting your pension if you have it. It is causing them to be off work while they go get treatment, or let alone the influence it has over their own patient care or direct interaction with the public. Is the fire service, is law enforcement better off not hiring people with the significant backlog of trauma? Not that it's right or fair, but for the industry to grow, is it better off that not occur?
Here's the other question, not to be the contrary guy, but in this day and age with the lack of applicants to both career fields, can you afford to discount those people? I mean, think about it. Nationwide, there is a shortage of paramedics. There is a shortage of police officers. There is a shortage of people willing to go into the fire service. That's nationwide. Now, some places are doing it a little better. They're a little closer to full staff than other places. Some places are really, really hurting bad. So, I mean, and then, so let's bring it full circle, though, also. The idea that you score high on this test, right? And you have all this backlog of trauma, right? Isn't the idea of being able to go to therapy and heal from it? Isn't that the goal, right? So you can carry on a normal life?
I don't disagree, but you're in the fire service per se.
Or you're broken since you had all this stuff and you just can't do this.
Your career as a helper starts day one of the fire service, right? Day one, you are expected to go out and start solving the problems of the public.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you. And maybe in year 3, when you recognize there's a problem, that yes, the goal should be to get treatment. The problem is the first now 3 years that you're on, you have been a problem.
I would say, in my experience, the problems don't present themselves in the first 3 years. You usually don't have, if you have someone who is a problem starting day one, whether that's showing up late, being disrespectful, not wanting to do their job, I don't think that really has anything to do with trauma. That's just personality. And you're going to get people like that regardless of what your selection process is.
Absolutely. But what about anger? Anger is very, very secondary to trauma. But it's easy for us to say he's just an angry asshole, or he's a red ass, or any other term, or he's just disrespectful.
You don't see that crop up in people until later in their career, it seems like. Like, even with the ones that come in with the trauma, like, you don't see that the first couple of years. Like, you talk about year 7, you start to see that. So, I mean, I think it's kind of a moot point, though, because, I mean, what do we think about that trauma? I mean, can we heal from it? Can people go on and carry on great lives and be contributing members of society and in these career fields? Or do we think that once you've experienced trauma, whether that's in your childhood or it was due to the job, that you're broken from forever after and you can never do this job? What's the right answer? I mean, obviously, we all sitting here in this room and people watching know people that have been pensioned off of the fire department and police department because of PTSD. And they well should have, because whatever happened to them, the accumulation of all of the stuff that they ran was too much. And for them, the decision to step away and not be a part of it anymore was the right decision. And that's what needed to happen. There are other people that we know that have been through treatment, come back, and they're good because they learned the skills to deal with it. Is one better than the other? Absolutely not. It's just because this is such an individual thing and you don't know how you're going to respond to that stuff and you don't know how you're going to respond to treatment. Like, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with painting with too big a brush on this issue. Do I think that we need some kind of psych eval to come on? Yeah, because I think there are people that slip through the cracks that had we had a psych eval that they have no business on this job because either one, just personality wise, it's just not for them and they don't figure it out fast enough. And the culture is, you basically just get shamed to not quit. No, you got to stay because, you took this job from somebody else and blah, blah, blah. So these people end up staying whenever they're not happy with the job anyway and don't really want to do it, but they don't know what else to do. They don't know that, okay, look, I could just fucking leave. I can go do something else. I can go sit in an office and I would be much better off doing that. But instead, they stay here, they stay on the job, and they just continue to get beaten down, and they develop the drug, alcohol, sex addictions, the anger problems, and all that stuff. Whenever a lot of it probably could have been avoided if, they would have had an aptitude test that said, this isn't for you.
You and I obviously are in agreement, because the argument clearly would be made, at least for me, like, if we go by my proposed standard, I wouldn't be employed in the fire service. At the end of the day, a municipal fire department is a business. Dollars in, dollars out.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't hold these same standards we're discussing about, I don't want to say forgiveness, but leniency and understanding and working to improve in a white shirt business model standard outside of this, at a bank, in a Fortune 500 company, something like that. But we kind of allow it in the service that interacts with the public in their most delicate times. It almost seems backwards if you look at it.
So are we talking like a one strike you're out on applying? Is that what we're talking about here? Because just because you might have some trauma coming in, what other tests are we gonna have? We're gonna have a personality test. Is that part of it? And like I said, it's already subjective, kind of like an IQ test is subjective to an extent. Just because it shows your potential. So just like these tests, there's a potential it could be a problem. It could be you could pass with flying colors and whatever that looks like and still be a problem.
Yeah.
Then we go back to a traditional risk analysis model that we use in really every other business. It's like, it's an investment, right? Like, what are the potential risks?
We are an investment. How much does it cost to train us from day one?
Yeah.
Whether, just coming off the street, 18 to 20 to 30 years old for most departments, right? So the cost of the academy, what it takes to train you, all your certifications, to keep those certifications up over time, plus all the training that we do, uniforms, benefits, everything goes in. We're not a cheap investment.
Yeah. I mean, so let me ask you this, Chris. How much do you think, I mean, off the top of your head, ballpark figure, how much do you think a municipality has invested in a 25-year firefighter when it's all said and done? We're talking gear, we're talking training, we're talking salary.
Over a 25-year career?
Yeah.
I'd say well over $1 million.
Okay, so if you have $1 million in your hand and you're looking at places to invest it, right? And you say, hey, here's option A, comes with some baggage, it got touched as a kid, it didn't quite get along, it was socially awkward, but it's got a good work ethic. And option B is kind of new to the fire service, doesn't really know much about it, okay work ethic, willing to learn, hasn't really seen interactions with people. We don't know that we don't have as positive, but we also don't have as negative. But over here we have as negative. Where are you investing $1 million to?
Good question. I don't know. 'Cause I mean, we've all seen the safe bet fail many times, and the long shot pays off big time.
Like, and the question becomes, like, is it responsible of the department to risk the investment of the taxpayers of $1 million? You brought up staffing, Jeremy. You're absolutely right. No argument with that. Who would you say has been the fire service's biggest hindrance in hiring and recruitment?
What do you mean? Like what position?
No, like what would you say that one of the biggest causes is for low recruitment and low hiring in the fire service?
Oh, ourselves.
Yeah, it is
100%.
It is the fire service.
Yeah. You pull yourself back a little bit from the mic. You're peeking bad.
I'm sorry.
You're getting all excited and shit. So,
Is this good? So, absolutely, it's ourselves. So, do we get to? Why I agree, Jeremy. We cannot afford to be too picky with the way service is.
Yeah, but on the other hand, can we afford to not be picky? Because you see the trend. I mean, it might not be as obvious to you with our differences in time on, but when me and Chris came on, I can count on one hand the amount of people that we know that left this job before they had 25 years on if they were not injured. I have lost count in the last 5 years of how many people have left the job, left the career field with less than 7 years on. Like, it is not, there has been a cultural shift where people just don't care about staying 25 years or 27 years, whatever the case may be, till their retirement age at one department. Department hopping is now a thing. It's been with the police department for a while. They've done that. I've seen that for forever, right? But with fire service, typically it's you get on with the department and you stay there.
All right, so let me ask you this: if the department that you got hired at, there's some states that do this,
Mhm.
you go into a statewide firefighter pension
Mhm.
that allows you to department hop.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have department hopped at some point, or do you think that allows people to department hop more? Not you in particular, but do you think it kind of gives that? Okay, I'm not happy here for whatever reason,
Yeah.
but I don't want to lose my pension because it's not a 401k like because hopping companies, it's very common.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies out there now that say if you're not, and this is the corporate world, so
Mhm.
take it for what it is. If you're not moving companies every couple of years, you're doing yourself a disservice
Right.
because they're not giving you raises. Where if you jump a
Yes.
company, you get a massive raise, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing now is departments are competing for the same people.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the department hopping, and they don't really care about the pension yet because they don't understand the retirement aspect.
Right.
Or they're just really good with their money and they're already putting into a Roth IRA or a deferred comp they can move or whatever it is.
Right. Or they are in that state where they can
Or they're in that state.
do that and it doesn't affect their pension to jump. So, yeah, I mean,
So who's the bad guy there? Is it the person that's department hopping, or is it the departments for
I'm not
keeping
saying
people?
I'm not saying that there's any bad guy in that situation. I'm just saying that that's the reality now.
Yeah.
It was not the reality, and departments have to understand that. Like, I had that conversation the other day of, you guys know that you are trying to, like, the average paramedic career is 7 years. Either they start to do something else, like they're completely out of the career field, or they advance. They become nurses, doctors, they do other things.
Jeremy, let me. I'm gonna stop you at that though, because you're right. Why is the average paramedic career 7 years?
I was just explaining that.
I know, but like, why?
Because it's just a step. Like, people want to advance, right? You get into that career field because you want to, like, especially coming into the fire service as a paramedic, right? You know that you're not going to spend your whole career as a paramedic because you can become a driver, you can become a captain, you can become a battalion chief, you can become a lieutenant, you can all the way up to director of the fire service, right? Well, if you're in, let's just say, like an ambulance service, right? If you're a paramedic, then you're going to promote to, your shift chief or supervisor or whatever. People that become paramedics, typically, it seems like, don't want to just stay there. They want to advance their career.
I agree with you. Why don't they want to stay there? We look at it beyond promotion opportunities. Like, you hear all the time, why'd you get into nursing? I was a medic, I just couldn't handle it anymore. Why'd you promote? Why'd you get off the ambulance? I couldn't ride the ambulance anymore. Look at what we've turned.
I think it's money and workload.
Yeah, look at what we've
work-life
also.
balance.
Yeah, look at what we've turned EMS into. What it started as, and what it was intentioned. In the 1940s.
It was really. I mean,
they weren't
really. The 70s is when EMS became what it is now, and even then, it was what they ran wasn't a whole lot of quote unquote bullshit. It was people knew how to take care of themselves. Oh, I stubbed my toe, and now you get people calling the fucking ambulance for it. That's a problem.
We've turned it into a catch-all service kind of.
Lawyers have.
Yeah.
Because they sue for every little fucking thing that doesn't need to be sued for. Which nobody, when you're a lawyer, I fucking hate lawyers. They don't give a shit. They care about the money. How much am I going to make by suing XYZ for Joe Schmo over here? That's what they care about. They don't look at what all the far-reaching consequences are.
Yeah, because that's not their job.
And now, but they're going to be the first ones to complain, well, it took you 45 minutes to get, yeah, motherfucker, because of all the shit you've done the last 30 years of suing everybody, That's the consequences of your actions. So because you were a jackwagon, we have nobody who wants to do this fucking job anymore because they burn out and they're tired. Public servants are seen as a fucking punching bag now.
Well, yeah. Whenever you
And I'm
as
tired of
a
that shit. How many nurses get fucking assaulted?
whenever
And
you as
nothing
a
happens to those people.
whenever you as a 3, 4, 5 year firefighter make $3 more an hour than your high school sister, that's a fucking problem.
And this is all nationwide. This
Yeah.
this is worldwide anymore.
It's turned into when it comes to like some of the and it's easy to get off topic right now, but like it's
This all plays
we've
into
done
mental
this
health.
we've done this to ourselves. We, especially with our staffing, could we afford to implement this type of program? I don't know. Probably not on a simple staffing wise, but like all the repercussions of its possibility were created by ourselves. We've done it to ourselves. This is our own problem, and we look like idiots if we're going to try to use a problem that we created as a defense for a problem we're trying to solve.
Well, so I agree, yes and no, that we had a hand in creating the problem. We did. That's undeniable. However, like the staffing issue, we did not create. That's a cultural issue. Like, because whenever we came on, we had 3,000 people applied.
Mm-hmm.
See, Jeremy, that's
Like-
where I argue with you. Though I think it is I think we influenced the culture, or our
I-
lack of influence on the culture over the years.
Yeah, but how much influence can you be expected to have? I mean, you're throwing a big, like, you're giving us more credit than we probably deserve. Because remember, we've seen in the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen the rise of social media. We've seen the rise of those social influencers. They are now offering college courses on how to be a social influencer. We have been
If
beat
you take that
down.
class, you deserve all the debt you're about to get.
We have been beat down with you have to have a college degree, have to have a college degree, have to have a college degree. Well, guess what? Electricians, plumbers, construction workers. Yeah, there's a nationwide shortage of them too.
Mhm.
So
It's all your trades, your blue collar.
But Jeremy,
all of that stuff.
But the fire service, when we saw that, you got to have a college degree. You got to have a college degree, right? That was the trend, and then we saw it in law enforcement and police. Hey, you have to have a degree to promote. You got to have a degree to promote. You got to have a degree to do this in the job. Got to have a degree. We did it to ourselves because now we have our own members that want to rise in their careers, and in order to get that, they got to take on a bunch of debt, student debt, and all these other problems. And now then they got to work overtime. So we did it ourselves.
You're fucking wrong, James.
How?
So we're gonna say some guy or some gal could just sit there and take a little bullshit test that we write, or that some company who thinks they know about the fire service writes, but you have all these academic studies and all this stuff that's science-based and fact-based on how we need to do things and change and make the fire service better. We're gonna ignore all that, right? We're just gonna take this little fucking test to promote.
So you're saying you want degrees to promote?
Yes, you need to do something. And plenty of cities and plenty of municipalities, and there's plenty of other ways to pay for school than going into a bunch of debt.
So let me ask you this: do you want a degree, or do you want courses throughout a career that a fire service would pay for?
I want both.
Okay.
But now you have to increase. That beat was a little hard. I heard that. I hurt my eardrum.
Chris is getting fired up about education.
But you have. So now you're gonna have to increase your budget, which that's a problem. Budget is always a problem. I'm not using it as an excuse, but you have to think about it. Where's that money going to come from? Because your cities and your counties, they don't want to give you more money than they have to.
There are grants.
There are grants. Now, how many people are fighting for those grants? How many fire departments are in the country? How many paid departments are in the country?
Not as many. There aren't as many people fighting for those grants as you would think.
But if we're going to require a degree to promote, I think at a certain point you need to have an education.
Yeah. Well, I think
you can't just sit by
so
and wait.
here's the thing. It is, regardless of the money issue or any of that stuff, regardless of that, it is your fire department's responsibility to provide those courses.
Yeah,
they should,
I
because
agree.
you want the best of the best at your department, right? Cool. Then fucking train them.
Experience is a great teacher, and education is a great teacher. So which one would you rather have? Somebody who has a ton of experience, or somebody who has an education?
I think where I think you and I differ. I don't think we differ on education. I think we differ on the type of education, right? So we can sit there and say, oh yeah, well, there's opportunities and all this other stuff to pay for college, which there maybe is, but that doesn't mean it's always accessible. So if a traditional student wants to go,
100% accessible.
If a traditional student wants to go and get a 4-year degree, he can. But is that necessary in the fire service to promote and lead compared to the other educational opportunities in the fire service? Leadership seminars, driving courses, all other things that still show initiative. And not only show initiative, like it's easy to get a 4-year degree and then go into the fire service. It's harder to go into the fire service and over, say, even a 10-year career before you promote, show you're still invested by attending leadership conferences and continuing ed things and stuff outside of a bachelor's degree. I get you are passionate about it because you're even working on your master's, but there are things you can do that still educate specifically within the fire service.
There are courses you can take, and I think you should. I'm all for them. But to just because you take a couple of courses doesn't make you an expert. We see it all the time. Well, I took this class. All right, let's talk about nozzles. Which is better, a combination or a smoothbore?
For what? See, that's the point. They won't know.
Which classes you fucking take? Because that's what we see. Oh, I'm a combination guy because I took this class and blah, 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 combination. And then 2 weeks later, they take a smoothbore, like smoothbore for life. They start jerking themselves off on it. That's what we see in the fire service. We don't combine the two. They both have uses. They are both good at what they need or what you need them for. Sometimes you need a smoothbore. Sometimes you need a combination. Just like when it's not a experience only or seminar only or education only answer. It's a fucking combination.
But
that's how we need to promote people, because now you're getting the best and the brightest of your department, but you have to offer it to everybody. And right now, this is a great time for education. Even those seminars, because it's online, you can sit at your fucking computer and get an education. It's pretty fucking simple, and it's not that expensive.
But that's my point, Chris, is back to what I said.
Everybody has access. Now, what's your drive? What's your want to? That's the question.
I agree with you, but we as a fire service for a while, when we as a country were pushing degrees, made degrees a requirement to do this job or at least promote in it. I
don't have a problem with it.
I do, because it killed our staffing, because not everybody is set for college and set for a degree. There are lots.
What's wrong with being a 25-year, 30-year firefighter?
Nothing.
Okay, if you don't want to do that kind of stuff, just like in a corporation, if you don't want to have some initiative and go get an education and better yourself, then you don't get promoted. What are you going to do to promote yourself? It's not my job to hold your damn hand so you can get promoted. If you want help, I will help you. I will do anything in my power to help you and teach you, and I will learn right along with you, because I don't know everything. But if you expect me to hand it to you, fuck off.
I don't disagree with you, Chris. That is you. Now, if you want me to send you every 18-year-old that wants to go in the fire service and you want to mentor 200 kids so they can get their degree to be successful in the fire department, take on that workload. We're talking about what the service and the industry as a whole has done. And the requirement of a degree to do anything with it hurt the industry as a whole, because it's not attainable for everybody in it. You want to get on the job. Now, if you say, hey, we want you to have a degree by 10 years and we're going to pay for it after 5, great. But that's not what the industry did. The industry said, we want you to have this, and you have to have this
places
to promote.
that Texas does it. You know, Texas, and I found this out the hard way, they pay for your college if you're a first responder. Police or fire, doesn't matter. EMS, doesn't matter. They pay for it. Now, it's up to you to take advantage of it. And that's what we're talking about here. It's you. If you want to do it, if you want to get promoted, just like a lot of places, hey, this is what we're going to test over on promotions. If you want to get promoted, you need to study. Now, do I think we should provide classes as a fire service? Yes, I do. But it's still on you to study and you to do the work, not me. Again, I can only control what I can control, and that's what I can learn.
We're on the same page. But when we look at what hurt staffing was setting requirements that people had to do on their own that were hard for some people, right? We said, and police departments did this too, got to have a 4-year degree. Everybody said, got to have a 4-year degree. Hell, even some of the trade services were wanting 4-year degrees for their upper management. And that it's not, if you want to pay for it, if you as an employer want to pay for it, or at least significant financial assistance, great. But they also weren't doing that. They were just saying, do it on your own, which is why the student loan debt skyrocketed to start with. So we set standards, we put people in debt, and we gave them no assistance to get there. On top of that, and that's just from that. On top of that, then, we made the career look shitty. We then became understaffed. We then worked our people into the ground, and we saw, especially with the rise of social media, what happened. People got burnt out. People lashed out. People behaved less than professionally. We see videos of medics falling asleep in the back of the ambulance at 2 a.m. while the person with toe pain is recording them in the back of the ambulance.
I saw that video.
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's anybody to blame but ourselves. It was right after 9/11, we, as a fire service, really loved the praise and the attention and the increased hiring rates and everything else, but we didn't do anything to sustain it. We thought it was going to happen forever, and it didn't. It only realistically took about 10 years for that thing to fall. But
it didn't even take that long, because we were taking departments across the nation were taking pay freezes within 5 years.
But
yeah,
there's nothing. Again, there's nothing we've. Every problem in the fire service, it's we've created it ourselves. Whether it be just, and I think if we look at it from a funnel perspective, I think it starts from the beginning. You know, we set standards that were hard for a lot of people to reach. And then now what's funny is we then in the backhand turn around and try to target those same people we set standards for that almost filter out. We want to say, well, now we want
to reach.
Chris, it's hard.
What?
For the same people we want to target now, right? We want minorities. Everybody says minorities. Okay. But you got to remember 10, 15 years ago, the standards departments wanted didn't. So a lot of minorities couldn't.
So I'm going to stop you right there, James.
What standard are you talking about?
I'm going to stop you right there. So what we have seen nationwide is police departments and fire departments lowering their standards for entry. And interesting case study, Memphis PD. Right? Mm-hmm. You know the incident I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Every single one of those people that were involved in that incident were hired because of lowered standards. Mm-hmm. They were in a unit that they wouldn't...
was created to specifically kind of house them because they thought it was great if they lowered the standards to get those people back out in the community. It was a proactive unit.
Yeah, it was a proactive unit that in normal times for a normal department, you would have had to have seniority to be on because it requires problem solving and proactive thinking and critical thinking and actually being a good cop. Instead, they put those 7 or 8 jack wagons who had no business being cops on that unit. And what did they do? They hunted down somebody and beat the fuck out of him until he was dead.
And dragged 2 other people down with him.
Yeah. So that's the consequence of lowering standards. So I don't think that we ever made, at least in the fire service that I'm aware of, that we ever made any standards unattainable.
That's my question. What standards are you talking about that are unattainable?
I'm talking specifically like in regards to like what I like.
There is no department that I am aware of that requires a 4-year degree to be hired.
No, but here's where I'm going to go with this, right? Our department specifically, like a lot of very large metropolitan departments, will provide you the education you need. We put our employees through the academy and through basic EMT school, right? 75% of paid fire departments do not do that.
Right.
Yeah,
that's where
smaller ones don't.
That's where but again, that's the vast majority. Like the vast majority of all fire departments are volunteer, but the vast majority of paid departments do not meet that. Like they don't do what we do.
Right. So because they don't have the money or staffing to do it.
And that's where it can start to become unobtainable for a lot of people. I'm not saying reduce the standard.
Hit pause.
Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is like for the large majority of the paid departments, now that standard becomes hard because there are usually with fire 1 and 2, your hazmat and your EMT, those are usually community college obtainable stuff. You can sometimes get scholarships. You can sometimes get sponsored by departments, but a lot of the vast majority of those kids are paying for, well, it's probably all in all $5-6 grand
Mhm.
on their own. And that's not sustainable for the people that larger departments are trying to hire, low socioeconomic status individuals.
So there's also even back then when standards, as you say, changed, there was also the Explorer programs. Not every department had them, but they were all over the country, and a lot of smaller departments had them. And basically, what it was is kind of like Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts.
Free labor, depending on the incident.
Well, no. So you come in and you start learning how to be a firefighter and an EMT and all that, and then they kind of like, oh, hey, we can sponsor you to go to this school, and so that's them paying for it, but you're going to be an employee. But you had to earn it, so you had to show up and be dependable and come to the weekly meetings and the training sessions, and it's like, okay, yeah, this person will work out. It's a recruitment tool, but it works. And even if you don't go get your certifications, or you find out, hey, this isn't for me, you still have a base knowledge of what fire departments do and need. Maybe law enforcement was yours, and there was tons of law enforcement ones. Because I was in high school.
I'd almost say there's more law enforcement ones than fire ones.
My dad took me to one when I was a sophomore in high school for law enforcement. Because I mean, fire service, law enforcement, I liked all that stuff. So they didn't have the fire one, or we didn't know about it. And then we went to the meeting, and I was like, yeah, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
So I found out right away. But the fire one, that was for me. And then we moved here, and
But
so
Chris, let me ask you this:
away.
like, yes, the program was efficient. Would you say more than half or less than half of the paid fire departments in the country did that?
I'd say less than half.
Then there's our problem.
But again,
but at the same time, though, you have to look at, like, going back to Chris's point about money and cost and all that stuff of, you're talking about trying to just get people in the door. Also, some of that needs to be on the people who want to be here. Like, if you just want them to pay for everything and just give you a handout, like, I mean, how much are we really expected to, like, okay, we're going to just hold your hand all the way through the process so we can hire you and give you a job. Like, if I'm paying for all of your schooling and all that stuff, like, again, with our department, you can get hired, walk in off the street, get hired, go in, you go to the academy, you get all, and bigger fire department, right? Smaller departments, like, how many times do they invest that time in people and then they just decide, it's not for me? Or they start department hopping.
I'm going to go to that bigger department because they pay more.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's a problem that we have.
Like, there has to be a want to. Like, people have to pay their dues. And that's something that is, like, taboo now in our society of, there is no, start at the bottom and work your way up. Everybody wants to come in as a fucking battalion chief. Like, that's not how the world works.
I agree with you. I think, Jeremy, though, I think you of all people will take offense to this the most. You're starting you're starting to sound like an old red ass in the fire service. You're right. There has to be some want to, but at the same time, there also has, like, you don't know if you want to if you don't know, right? It's easy for, like, somebody to get an Explorer program. Why do they get in the Explorer program? It's usually one of two ways. Somebody in their family was in the fire service and said, hey, you'll probably like this. Come on over and try it.
Mm-hmm.
Or that department did marketing and outsourcing to say, hey.
You mean outreach?
Outreach,
yeah.
We paid China. We paid China.
Can we outsource the fire department?
Yeah, can I get a work from home deal?
Yeah. We paid, for outreach and community outreach, the engagement factor, to where we went out as a fire service and said, hey, here's what we do. Here's what you can do. Here's what's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be interested? Yeah. And then, then
kind of like the military does when they're in the high school once a month, giving away shit and talking about all the cool stuff they do. But they don't tell you about the shitty things they do.
Yeah.
Like being a cook.
Giving them an aptitude test, the ASVAB.
Yeah.
How about the ASVAB for fire service?
I mean, I hate to say it works in the military, and I'm sure there are a lot of holes somebody could poke in that statement.
Well, yeah, because you're looking at the
But
military.
But overall,
you're getting them for 4 years.
But
right?
at the end of the day,
And
the
that's all you need.
military is still bringing people in on a voluntary basis. We don't have any drafts.
So also, when you promote in the military,
Yeah, they've all missed their recruiting quotas except the Marines, which I don't.
Marines are
That's
cool.
just weird. Well, it's the dress uniform. It's got to be.
it's got to be it's the sword. Remember the dragon commercial? It's
Yes.
got to be slaying the dragon with the sword.
Yeah, totally not the right sword for slay a dragon with. By the way,
It was effective, wasn't it?
I mean, sure.
I was going to say something. I don't know what it was.
But I think like
I just had it's promotion in the military.
Mhm.
You have to take classes, and they provide them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I do think
I'm
that
fine with
there
that
are
on the fire
certain
service.
classes. Yeah, there are certain things that need to be provided, but there does become a point where when you reach a high enough rank that you need to have a college education to go along with your experience and your education.
Now here's where you lose me.
Provided education.
Here's where you lose me.
the military at
Because
least pays for it, a degree.
Yeah.
They at least pay for the degree.
you're
They-
talking-
And-
if you're
and most
talking about-
departments do too. That's called tuition reimbursement.
I am assuming that you are talking about a college education of things that are actually impactful for the career, not just like getting a
Yeah, you can't go get a music degree and no.
yeah.
So like a business degree, I
No,
would say a
I'm
business
out.
degree because again, just like what we talked about earlier,
It's a
the fire department
business.
is a business. It is.
Yes and no. It's a very shitty business. It's never going to be profitable.
It's not even an issue of being profitable. That is what it is. But you're dealing with budgets and personnel.
Yeah, but
And what's the biggest expenditure for a fire department or a police department?
their personnel.
It's salary.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure you manage the bills right and all of that.
One could
It's
argue.
business.
One could argue in the fire service for at least a very large metropolitan department that the very top person in charge does not need to know much about the fire service. They are strict like
Yeah, you're a political figurehead.
they're a political figurehead and they are doing numbers and they are operating a business. Now, maybe below them, absolutely yes, sir. They have
So
to have.
I kind of think, like a lot of big cities, you have your police chief and your fire chief. Let them run the department. Above them should be the commissioner, and that's your political figurehead. You run the department. I'll take care of the political shit. That's the way it needs to be.
My personal belief is politics should never come into public safety.
Yeah.
But I'm living
Jeremy's
in
in Rainbow Fartland.
it's cotton candy rainbow land.
Yeah, you're farting rainbows. They might smell like cotton candy. I don't fucking know. I'm not in that world. But
Chris,
it's an unfortunate reality.
I don't disagree.
Because of how most fire departments are city based.
Can we get back to the topic of mental health surveys?
I think all this
before-
plays into your mental health.
Yeah. So, Chris, let me ask you this: when you say, what about a degree do you think like somebody needs to have? Right? Are you saying I want them to have the education aspect? Are you saying I want the 4-year or whatever term commitment aspect from? Like, what about it? So, for example, my degree has truly the actual degree has done nothing for me other than give me like an extra $50 a month, right? Now, the social aspect of going to college for 5 years and playing football and being in choir and all of that, huge. Build relationships, build connections, learn how to interact socially with different types of people, gay, straight, black, Baptist, Hindu, it doesn't matter what it is. I learned how to do that in college. That's what was beneficial to me. Now, you change that to an online setting where I'm not really doing all that, I would then still have a degree, but not near the benefit of my college experience.
It depends on your degree. So like a lot of the stuff that I've been exposed to through the online process is things I never would be exposed to educational wise until I got into that position. Like creating a budget or an emergency preparedness plan. Things that we don't do as a regular firefighter, but that you will do when you hit those higher levels. So it's not completely teaching you how to do everything. Like it's not an end all be all, but it's exposing you to it so you have the understanding, and then you can go dig deeper into it.
Is that
exposing you to more and more material that you're probably not going to get exposed to as a run of the mill quote unquote grunt on the ground.
Is that a college thing, or could classes be offered?
I think classes can be offered, but I still think you need to have that 4-year degree.
Because then my question is, if you wanted people to have a 4-year degree, would your preference be an online or in-person campus? Like pretending they're coming into the job.
It doesn't matter to me.
See, I would argue that
I think online's harder.
I would argue that the in-person campus experience adds, again, just the social aspect. If you're going into public service and dealing with people, a college campus is a fantastic place to diversify yourself.
So I tried the on campus. It doesn't work for our schedule. Classes are at night.
I'm talking about before. Let's say we're
no. I don't care.
He's talking about before.
No, I don't care if you come on with one or not. I don't care at all. Just like if you have your fire 1 and 2 or your hazmat stuff, whatever department you go into has their own way of doing things, and you're going to learn that way of doing it. Same thing with a college degree. You might have that degree, but whatever business you get hired into, whether it's the fire service or corporate world, they have their own ways of doing things, and you have to adapt to that.
You got to remember that college campuses are, I mean, for lack of a better term, cotton candy rainbow land. It's all theory. That's all they're teaching you is theory. They're not teaching you actual practice. And as you know, or should know by now, that just because in theory something works doesn't mean that it actually does. And it can get you in a lot of trouble without that practical knowledge and experience.
Again, I don't disagree with you. My college experience, like what I learned in the classroom, is not really at all applicable to what I'm doing. What I learned outside of the classroom, completely applicable.
I think a lot of what I've learned through the college process is applicable, but only because I've had that base in the fire service for so long, and their fire-based classes. And even when I was on modified duty, and I was down at headquarters, a lot of what I was learning, I was seeing. And it's just, I think it changes. It gives you a broader view of everything, to where instead of looking, so when you first come on, you get the peephole view. You know, about 5 years, you're looking through the pane on the side of the window, and it just keeps growing. And pretty soon you have the picture window, and then you have, the entire side of the house is removed, so I'm looking at everything. And now I've got 20, 25 years on, I've got the drone view because I'm up here. And I think the college experience and the classes are made to keep expanding that view, and you see it in more detail. And experience does the same thing, just in a different way. And I think it needs to be a combination. Like, I'm not saying, only guys and people with college degrees can do it with X, Y, Z. I think it needs to be a combination. So you have to have experience and some college.
So, Chris, let me ask you this. I'm in agreement with you on that. Would you, fire departments usually go through contracts, through their unions. Would you like a raise in your next contract?
Well, who doesn't want a raise, man?
Exactly. Now, if I ask you, do you want a raise in your next contract? Or are you willing to take $1 an hour pay cut so the department can now fund a program to provide bachelor degrees to the members that want it?
I'm not giving anything up, dude. I'm not. Do you want a good fire department or not? What do you want if you are the city or the county or whoever funds the fire department or the police department, what do you want out of your department?
Set budget, though, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. You talking about, okay, well, we're just going to...
Or not even a pay cut, just no raise.
Okay, well, that's fine. Then get rid of inflation. Because you got firefighters now that can't afford to fucking live on their own. Because they can't afford rent. They can't afford groceries. Because it's just them.
I think that plays into their mental health.
Yeah. So, yeah, unless you're keeping up with inflation, don't come to me. Like, that's...
Which it's hard for a city to do for a federal problem. I think we would all agree.
We
would all agree with that.
Yeah, but there's also such a thing as city taxes and city fees and city everything else. They hit you with a bunch of different ways that they take money out of your pocket where they don't need to. Or they could pay you more to offset that cost.
So then back to my point, Chris, like if we all agree, in a contract time that a fire department needs more money, right? You need more money to do things. We're willing to give you this extra sum of money, right? Because we say, because it's easy to say, all right, you're the city. What do you want? Do you want a better fire department or not? Well, we want a better fire department. Okay. Well, pay us. Okay. Well, we were going to use that money for education. We weren't going to pay cut you, but we were going to use the increase for education. Do you want the education aspect? Like, do you want members of your department to be compensated for a bachelor's degree, or do you want a raise? You can't have them both. You're getting more money. How do you want
No, you can absolutely get them both. Sorry. Do you want a well-trained and well-educated department, or do you just want guys running around willy-nilly? What do you want? Because you're getting a
raise. You're getting more money, right? We all agree with that.
What you pay for. We've been saying it for years. It's just look at, and I know it's not the same, but look at tattoos. You gonna pay the guy $50 for a tattoo, or do you want to go to the guy's $200 an hour? Which one do you want? You get what you pay for. So if you don't want to invest in your people, don't complain when they're subpar.
Yeah. We look at it like Jeep products. Are you going to buy rough country bullshit? Are you going to spend the money on?
Lasted me 4 fucking years.
Are you going to spend the money on? That's debatable.
Isn't your?
Are you going to spend the money
like 100
on?
miles in your Jeep in the last 4 years, dude. It's always in the shop
Because of rough country.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
That's because of the Jeep.
Or are you going to spend the money on good parts? Are you going to get the big green alternator? Or are you going to get the Terraflex or the Yeti steering? Are you going to get the Clayton off-road lift with the springs so that whenever you load your Jeep up, it doesn't fucking squat?
Absolutely. I agree with you. Right.
So
So hold on.
Yeah.
So if I want to get more expensive parts, I need to have more money.
Mhm.
And if I need to have more money, I need to do what?
Show up to work.
Work more. There we go. Okay. So if the city wants to give more money to the fire department, we're not talking about our city. It's really easy to go down this rabbit hole if we're specifically talking about our city, right? But if a city wants to give more money to a fire department, they need to get more money, right? And they don't get to work. They tax. Right? So now taxes are going up for the fire department to have more.
That's debatable.
Where do they get the money, Jeremy? Where does money for a municipality come from? I'm in agreement with Chris. I can go down this road of we can do both.
Mhm.
Okay, that's going to cost more money and it has to come from somewhere.
So the money, or the city gets money from events that take place in the city that are not based on taxes for the citizens that live there.
Which works great for the large departments.
Yes.
What about the 75% of paid departments that aren't?
Here's the thing that you're kind of overlooking, James.
An Apple Festival? Are we taxing the Apple Festival?
No, taxes go up regardless. Taxes go up every year.
Yep.
So I've been paying taxes for 24 years, 25 years. I've been paying taxes. They go up every year, regardless. So tell me, where does that money go? Because if you're not going to give it to my emergency services local, you're not going to maintain my roads, you're not going to do all of that stuff. Where's my money going?
Office chairs in the White House?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Taxes are going to go up regardless. The city gets to choose where they spend that money, or the county gets to choose where they spend that money. Why, as citizens, aren't we standing up and firefighters standing up going, hey, that money's supposed to come to us, or that money needs to come to us? Because you want that cop who is super well trained to show up at your house and do the very best job possible. You want that paramedic and EMT combo to show up and save your grandma. You want that firefighter and that company to show up and put your house fire out and minimize the damage and save your belongings and save little Fido or little Timmy who was stuck in the bedroom. You want all those things. You need all of those things. It's a shift of perspective and values.
You just proved my point, by the way. You're right. Why aren't we as firefighters doing it? Which leads us back to we create our own problems. We are by nature a reactive service.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, we've just continued that right on up the ranks all the way at everything we do is reactive. And you're right. I mean, every once in a while, yeah, you see the Facebook video or the Instagram reel or the 30-second news spot where Jane Doe anchor goes out and rides with the fire department for a day. And we ride around the block with lights and sirens, hit the horn and do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But we aren't proactive in our education of the public for the public to demand these things.
So whose responsibility is that? If the department's not going to do it, or lacks the funds or whatever, maybe the union should do it.
That's if they're union. There are fire departments that aren't union.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And I mean, so.
But even if it is a union, it's a union made up of the membership and with leaders elected from the membership, which this goes back to. We do this to ourselves. It is basically all our fucking fault in one way or another.
I don't think it's all anybody's fault, James. I think
there's a whole lot of factors.
Yeah, I think there is a combination. You've got the politicians who have their hands in it. So regardless of whether or not the members of the fire service and the members of the police department stand up and go, hey, this is the thing and this is what we're doing. And, we're here and we do this and we do that and blah, blah, blah. And we're offering this and look at us citizens, they can stand up and do that all they want. The politicians have to be on board. Management for those departments have to be on board. And then the citizens have to be on board to vote for it. Right? So it's not just, you can stand up and scream and shout all you want. You have other parties involved. It's not one person making the decision. They all have to agree.
What do you see fire departments? We can use our department.
Nope.
Without.
Stop doing that.
What do we like? We'll just use our metro area. What are things you see from the local departments to educate the public? You're not on Facebook, but I'll give you a hint. You are on Instagram, so if you don't see it on Instagram, you're not going to see it on Facebook. So what are you seeing? That's just through social media. What are you seeing departments do to educate the public around here?
And it may be just because I don't follow very many people that are around here, department wise. I know there are individuals that do a lot of stuff. I know that there are departments that I follow from other parts of the country that do a very good job. They have a person dedicated to do that. That's part of their PIO's job, is Instagram and Facebook and social media and putting out things of, hey, we are hiring. Hey, we're doing this. Hey, this thing, watch this training, or, whatever. This is what your local fire department is doing. So there are departments out there who are using social media in that fashion. If they're doing it in this region, I haven't seen it.
I think
I'm also not on Facebook.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not seeing it on Instagram, Facebook is more of a mirror image of it, really.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be, but now it is. But back to Chris's standpoint, I think, like when he said lawyers fuck everything up, right? Like a lot of the stuff that we need to educate our public on, lawyers fuck it up. I've seen, you don't really see a lot of fire departments trying to educate the citizens on what is and is not appropriate for 911 use. Because at some point, some lawyer's been like, well, that Facebook post said I couldn't call 911 for this, and now grandma's dead. Unfortunately,
that's part of a bigger problem that, would eventually have to be addressed. And I know there are places that are addressing it in different ways. The right to refuse service is one of the big ones, and it works in some places, but you also have to have,
that goes back to training education.
Yeah, that goes back to training education. That goes back to having a medical director who will write the policies, and they'll be black and white. The problem is a lot of fire departments and police departments, whenever they write their policies, because of lawyers, they keep everything ambiguous. It's this or that and, or, they do use all this double speak. Yeah, they use all this double speak that contradicts itself. Because if you do get sued and go into a court of law, and somebody tries to use your policies and procedures against you, well, they can't because, well, it doesn't say that. It says this, kind of, but only in this situation.
Jeremy, you've ridden out on your department. You've ridden out as a battalion chief before, right, Chris? Have you? You know,
No, Chris is not.
okay.
I'm not going to answer questions about what I do or don't do in my department.
So your job as a battalion chief during like a large incident, while you're realizing kind of what's going on, you are looking and planning ahead down the road, correct?
Yeah.
Like that is, you are anticipating, you are planning ahead, you are getting, whether it be resources, personnel, whatever it be, in place in anticipation of or in preparation of.
Yeah, you do the same.
Said problem.
You do the same thing as a captain on a smaller scale.
Or as a medic when you come up with your patient care plan.
Yep. Okay. So we then collectively, we've just identified 3 ranks in the standard department that is the mindset of what we do, correct?
Mhm.
Would we then agree that probably in the fire service, we have at least identified problems that will occur in the fire service 10 years down the road? Anticipated problems,
We've talked about them multiple times.
And what are we as a fire service doing about it?
Good fucking question. Because ultimately, look, this all goes back to, and, we can harp on it, but what I just said, we can't come up with a solution. Like, it's not a one-person solution. Like, there are multiple people that have to be involved, multiple organizations that have to be involved to come to a consensus and agreement. Like, we can't just change, like, if you're talking about department specifics or department specific things of hiring and things like that, you can't just change that. You can't just change the standard. You can't just change what educational requirements. Like, you also have to get city legal involved, and you have to have the union involved. And there's a whole bunch of things that are at that 30,000 foot level that have to change. And when we talk about, you roll that all down to even, what we talk about on this podcast of, mental health and standards and practices of care for firefighters and cops. Like, okay, look, we're impatient. We need this fucking program. Let's fucking roll it out. Let's go. Okay, cool. Here's the problems: money, personnel, who's going to run it? Where are we sending them? Blah, blah. It just goes down the line, and all of those things have to be sorted out, and it takes time. So when you're looking at, okay, how do we fix the staffing problem to fix these other problems? Because we know the staffing problem will, in and of itself, fix a lot of problems, right? Because if we're fully staffed, we won't have paramedics and EMTs falling asleep in the fucking ambulance, or shouldn't have, because we won't have them working ungodly hours all the time on mandatory overtime and all of this stuff, right? So that's one step. Okay, well, how do we get these people in? Okay, well, now we have to put together a group. Now we have to recruit. Oh, we've never done that before because we never had to, because society was different 20 years ago. But now it's not about, I'm going to be an asset to my community. I'm going to take a secure job that has a pension, that I'm going to, do something that people think of like, yeah, that's admirable to do. It's not that way anymore.
I think you're right, but I still think you're downplaying what I'm going to call the influence of this situation. So the situation you described, like on a grand scale, right? We can still mirror it down. Say a large incident you're on as a battalion chief. There are still things outside of your control a little bit that we have to mitigate. So like a power company, a gas company, a tow truck, a crane, a bulldozer, right? There are things outside of your department's perspective. You can get your resources within your department all day, right? You can get more companies, more personnel, but there's still, say, the outside companies you may have to work with. Even take it down, like you guys have seen this, say, on a traditional cardiac arrest, right? Say you're getting ready to call the family member, your patient there in the house. There's still outside. You got to get on board with the family. You got to get on board with the crew. Like there's different things that all have to come in place that are a tiny bit outside of your control to get it. But you're forgetting the main thing that one central thing has, whether it be the medic, the captain, the battalion chief, is influence, right? Chris will love this. Our education, our experience influences the decision we're making and those around us. And
Right.
if we can do it as the paramedic, we can do it as the captain, as the battalion chief, as the department in some areas. Why can't we do it as an industry? That's
you know how
that's where
easy
it's
it
like
is to educate the public. Seriously, we've talked about this before, and we don't see people do it. What is one thing almost every single fire station in the country do on a daily basis?
Go to the store.
Go to the store. Who's at the store?
citizens.
How hard is it to have a conversation with people as you're walking through the store picking up your fucking apples and be nice and smile? Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Talk to the kids. Show them the fire truck. It's big. It's huge. Everybody sees it. We're constantly seen everywhere we go. And then you talk about the things. Hey, this is what's going on in your local department. This is what we've been doing. This is what we're trying to do.
Instead, we just only do it when it's vote time, right? If there's
when it's only vote time and you see people out trying to get people to sign other things, you just talk to them. Hey, and people want to talk to you. They want to, and they want to know what's going on. Hey, we saw you guys had a big fire the other day. Yeah, this is kind of what you saw the news, you saw the video. I'm not saying get into specifics about it, but talk to them about it. Yeah, I mean, it was really hot. This is what we saw. This is kind of what we did. Simple.
God, do we see fire, regularly, like, God, just at least annually, maybe twice a year, fire department town halls with the community, or
I'm
like
all
anything?
about, I'm
You
all
know what I
about
mean?
transparency, man.
Yeah, now there is side note, 80% of fire department calls require some sort of EMS treatment, which then brings in HIPAA. So you are limited in what you can be some things transparent about. We all understand
but
that.
We can talk about our call volume, our numbers, what's fire, what's automatic alarms, what's car wrecks, how many cardiac arrests, short of breath, serious calls. I'm not saying give away patient information or addresses, but we can talk about zip codes. Hey, this is where we ran 4,000 calls in this zip code, or in these 3 streets alone. That's not giving away patient information.
No. And then,
or I'm not giving somebody's specific address, so it's still not a HIPAA violation.
It's interesting. Like the police almost beat us too, because their big thing right now is community policing, right? You get the community to buy in and help you. We're not doing that in the.
What was it I've been talking about for a year now or more?
Outreach. Yeah, I know. But again, who's paying for it?
We're already paying for it. Now, there need to be certain dedicated people to it? Yes. And there's people that are more than willing to do that because they have a passion for it. I love it. When I was hurt, fuck, man, did it every day. And you learn a lot. You learn your community. You start listening and seeing what they need. Doing a food drive, just putting food in somebody's car and having a 30-second conversation changes their day. Hey, I see you got a couple kids. Where's your guys' car seats? Oh, well, we can't afford them. Oh, okay. Hey, this is Officer, so-and-so. The police department has a program for car seats. He could take you right now to the police station and get you 2 car seats and get them installed for you. You guys down for that? That'd be great. Okay, follow him.
Chris, how many times are
fucking simple, man? You just changed that family's fucking life. And what did it cost you? A 15-second conversation.
And if anything, you gain from it because now you made a connection with that community member.
And they're going to tell their friends and their family members and their neighbors who don't have car seats for their kids. Or, hey, you guys know they're doing this down there? And that leads into other programs, other conversations. And all of a sudden, you're changing your whole community, and your call volume is going to go down over time.
And maybe this is a lawyer-created problem, like Chris likes to say, but what is an industry? We can speak about our own local department or local area, but I'll just say as an industry, what are we doing to empower the participants, the firefighters, the medics, the members of this industry? What are we doing to empower them to do more? Right? We've got ourselves in this black and white, stay in your lane so you don't get sued, and it's really easy to tell them what not to do, but we don't empower people on what they can do. Like there aren't department classes. There are lots of HR classes on telling us what not to do, but we never have a class saying, hey, here's how you can work in your gray area to do the best you can with what you have for your citizens.
Education.
Yeah. You just got
to tiptoe around it. But Just like, I don't know how many papers I've written at this point, but a lot of it's finding information and putting it together to make a conscious thought and a change. That's all you're doing. You're trying to piece things together to better your community, better your district that you work in. I don't care what state, what county, what part of the country you work in. If you try and do right by people, you'll never do wrong.
And that doesn't cost money. It really doesn't. Like
A friendly smile and a wave goes a long way. I mean, shit. How hard is that? Seriously.
that
old lady who wants to tell you about her 16 cats. Okay. I got a minute. Let me hear about your cats. You just made her day. Oh, hey, did you know we have little signs that you can put on your door to let us know that you have animals? No, I didn't know that. Yeah, call this number. You can't drive, you can't bring it out, because you live in a gated community or whatever, wherever you live, you can't drive, but you take what's the transport things for elderly people?
Oats bus?
The what?
The Oats bus?
Yeah, one of those. We'll bring it out to you because we have people that are on modified duty as a fire service. Every fire department has people that are hurt. Okay, we got a job for you, man. Go take this out. Help this lady fill it out. You slap it on her door or his door. Oh, so you have 3 bedrooms? Okay, it's right there. Oh, you have 2 cats? You have a dog? Any other adults? No? Or now the family across the street who's got 4 kids sees that. Oh, yeah. Hey, can we get one of those? Absolutely. Where's your bedrooms at? Now we know. So now we roll over to that house at 3 a.m. and we're all groggy because we've been asleep or we've been running all night. We know where they're probably going to be. And we know there's 4 kids, there's a mom, there's a dad, or 2 moms or 2 dads or whatever it is in your house, and your dogs and your cats and your bird. If you got a snake, you're on your own, man. I ain't touching your snake.
I'm not saving your snake.
Snake's
It's
gonna
not happening.
No, one thing,
But I mean, these are simple things that the community and it leads in big conversations. Hey, while we're doing this, I saw your garage door was open and your gas can's not where it should be, or you got a propane tank and somewhere it's not supposed to be, or whatever it is. And now we're mitigating things. I'm like, hey, your stairs are kind of shitty. You might want to, fix those. That way you don't cause an EMS call.
your stairs are shit, you broke fucking bastard.
I mean, I wouldn't say it like that, but you see where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
You start having those conversations and you're making that whole house safer. Or, hey, you guys have you have a booster seat for your kid? You're supposed to have it for XYZ. Here's the number. Call them to help you out.
Could you imagine, Jeremy? I think locally, at least in large, I'd say almost in every town. Hell, even for volunteers. If the department did, at minimum, once a year, a town hall, and they marketed it, citizens come, ask questions, we will teach you. And they just said, stated goals and expectations from the fire department meet stated goals and expectations from the citizens.
I think it depends on how big your response district is.
Well, I mean,
As a city, a municipality, or a department, whether it's volunteer, paid, however big it is, could it be once a year? Maybe, but I'd probably figure out how big my area is, and then I figure out how many I need. Do I need to do one a month and hit certain areas of the city? In my small municipality, I could do it once a quarter, or I could do it, every 6 months. It just depends on that department. But then, yeah, we're going to teach you. Here's our goals. Here's our expectations of what we're trying to do. What do you guys want? What do you need? How can we help you? How can we better our community? How can we be better prepared for whatever may happen? And now you're kind of getting into emergency management where it's, disaster preparedness and all of that. But how can we be a safer community where we're not spending a ton of money on wear and tear on our fire apparatus, on our police cars, on our personnel, and citizens are actually helping out? That's kind of what we do. It's mitigating it before it happens. That's being proactive. It's fucking simple.
so back to my point,
It takes
Jeremy,
a little bit of your time. That's all it is. It's a little bit of your fucking time.
we do it all to ourselves.
No, it's not just us, man.
It's
everybody.
We
We are in a me generation now. A me time. Me.
So back to
Yeah.
my original point then is, do we not hire the me's?
No, we turn me's into we's.
On,
We-
on whose dime?
It's on our dime. We do it with
On the-
our time.
On the taxpayers? Do we?
No, you get people. Doesn't matter if they're a me person or not when they get hired. I've seen tons of me people today, and everywhere I look, whether it's police, fire, corporate world, and fucking Target, everybody's a me person. It's the new society. So we need to teach them to be we's when the me's get hired, because everybody's going to be a me. That's the new rule. The exception of the rule is the we. You don't see many of those anymore. Social media's been a problem with it, and there's other factors too. But
Yeah.
it's getting rid of the I statements. I did this. I did no, motherfucker. We did that because we are a group. We work together. Just like on whatever crew you're on, it's a crew. It's not, oh yeah, I put the fire out. No, you didn't, motherfucker. We did.
Yeah. Well, and I think, and I like a lot of what Jocko says, that extreme ownership, right? The leaders taking ownership of the problems and all of that stuff. But you got to read deeper into that book, and you got to read deeper into that philosophy, because he's not saying that you absolve other people of their responsibilities. And I'm kind of taking that from you of we as the fire service are responsible for all this stuff, which we do bear some culpability for it. But also there are other people that are responsible, and we can't let them off the hook, because that behavior has to change as well. Because
Like who?
Politicians and the citizens.
Is it at our control? Citizens, yes, through education. Politicians, do we
Yes.
say yes because we vote them in?
Yeah, 100%.
Citizens, I think, are more in our control than politicians, because we can educate the citizens, kind of blanketly, massively, whatever you want.
Yeah,
to say.
but you're still expecting the citizens to go along with what you say. Like, they have the responsibility to take the knowledge that you provide them and do with it what they will, right? It's a free will society.
And if you do it correctly,
And-
right, you would
yeah.
say if you
Yeah.
have 10
And
citizens
it's the same thing.
through education, 7 of the citizens.
And then you rely on the citizens to change the politicians. So it's not just us. Like, we have a hand to play. I'm not denying that at all. But there's culpability at many different levels with this problem.
Whether people want to look at it, see it or not, society is a we thing. We are society. It's not a me. If we want to succeed, we need to work together.
Yeah.
But it's teaching people that and reminding them it's we. Now you're going to do what you do and do your part. Yeah. But it's still part of the we.
And that comes from not taking on too much responsibility on yourself, because you know where that leads you.
No, I have no
Yeah.
clue.
If you feel like you are, I mean, that's one of the problems with the, mental health in the fire service and police departments, is you take everybody's problems on and try to solve everybody's problems yourself. You can't, because everybody else has a part to play in this stuff, right? You can't be the savior all the time. That's just cuckoo. Everybody else has responsibility. Like, you can tell Billy Joe Bob, stop fucking doing meth. It's not good for you. It's up to him to stop doing meth. Like, you can't take responsibility for his actions. You can't take responsibility for the idiot that decides to drive 100 fucking miles an hour down a surface street. Like, you didn't cause that. You got to go clean it up. But there's nothing that you can do about it. You can only take responsibility for your part.
So then back to the original question of when it comes for hiring, is it our responsibility to filter out potential liabilities?
I think it's one of those questions of what liabilities are we comfortable with assuming, and what standard do we want to have? So, like, do I think that fire departments should move towards doing some kind of psychological test before hiring? 100%. And the only reason why I am in favor of that is because that gives you a baseline. So in 5 years or 7 years, whenever you start showing signs and symptoms of PTSD, you can go, hey, day 1, I was here.
We do it with concussion tests.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
100%. Day one, I was here. I am now here. The job is the reason. And there's no debate about it. So do I think that that should exclude people from employment just because they get a high score on whatever that test is? Not necessarily. And I think whenever you start making blanket statements of if you get this number, you're out, I think you're not doing yourself a good
You know,
It's
it's
still gonna
interesting
be a
though.
gray
It's interesting though, because that's not
That's how it will
that's
be
not
used.
a protect. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
And Chris's favorite people, lawyers. Like, are we talking about discrimination now? Because that's not a protected class.
If it's not a protected class, wouldn't that mean they're a protected class? At this point, I mean, if you don't fall into that, and
I
you discriminate against me, then
I have a person on my crew every day that tells me fat is not a protected class, so she calls me fat. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would only take maybe 3 or 4 years before it became one. I
mean, here's the thing. Like,
we look at it like when it comes to insurance, right? We say like, oh yeah, like this volcano hasn't erupted in 2,000 years, but since your house is on the property that it last hit 2,000 years ago, your rate's going to be higher because of the potential. Like,
which I think is a fucking scam anyway.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
not a
but-
good analogy to use with me,
that's a
James.
scam.
Insurance is the biggest fucking racketeering scam. It's fucking ridiculous.
but even at its base core, it looks at
right.
risk liability.
By people who are not qualified to look
No.
at risk liability.
No. I don't
Yeah.
disagree with you with that. But the principle of it is risk liability. Like,
Yes.
and even for anything, like, say it's investing. Again, I go back to my point with Chris. Like, what do you want to invest $1 million of your dollars in? Because that's a lot of money. Or then, like,
you know, let's be honest. If you're going to invest money into something, you're not going to base it on one test, one decision. It's you're going to look at everything as a whole. That's how, you're not just going to be like, oh, well, they failed this one, but they passed everything else, so fuck them. I'm not going to invest in that.
But you know as well as I do, there are departments out there that will do that.
And I'm not. And
well, also
it's
they can
wrong.
afford. They can afford to.
Yeah.
You know, they're only maybe hiring 5 people, not 300.
Yeah.
When you have 5 people, yeah, you can afford to do that. But I hate. It's interesting to me, like, because what's sad is too, like, all these people then come on and say have problems. This job may be the first time they've gotten quality, appropriate mental health treatment. Right here. Like, that was me. It's no different than kids that are really, really, really poor don't get quality meals till they go to school. So do we exclude them from school? No. But I hate, like, the been through treatment, been through my own battle, came on the job with trauma. Part of me says, yes, those people may even make the best employees because they have the compassion and the empathy that they brought on with them. Right. But from a business perspective and a growth of a department to present the best quality overall service to the citizens, I almost kind of lean towards, yeah, we should maybe be excluding some of them.
He's talking about Moneyball Fire Service.
Mm-hmm. How many runs can we score? What's my on base percentage?
Yeah.
It's efficient.
Yeah, but
Did
it's
they
never
win?
gonna win you a championship.
Yep. It's gonna win you games. It's not a championship.
What's a championship in the fire service versus what's winning a lot of games?
Whenever that one situation pops up,
The one
the
in the
once in a lifetime call, and your department knocks it out of the fucking park because they have rock stars who maybe wouldn't have got hired anywhere else.
True. But like then is the question, if they knock it out of the park during the one big one, how are they doing for the little ones? Like what's your department going to be remembered by? Is it for all the it's easy for us to say like, yeah, the citizens love them because every time they come through their front door, they love them.
Mhm.
Well, they fumbled the big fucking building collapse, but they already get leniency from the citizens because
Right.
they had great reputation established versus like they're kind of shitty to the citizens, but they really did that one good thing.
So here's the thing. You're trying to lump the whole department in one thing, right?
The whole fire service.
The whole fire service, right? So you can't do that because in any group, you're going to have, let's say, any group of 100 people, you're going to have 80 people who are just there. They're just there. They're happy to be there. Cool. You're going to probably have about 9 or so that have no fucking business being there at all.
It's the hangover theory.
Yeah. Then you're going to have, 5 or 6 that are, they're your solid, like, they're not rock stars, but I mean,
you can build with them.
You can build with those guys.
They're the bassist.
They
play the bass in the band.
It's the bass and the drummer. Like, they keep the time and they are solid. And then you got those 3 or 4 that no matter what is going on, they are going to outperform everybody. And that's in every corporation. That's in every fire service. That's in every special operations team. That's in every police department. Like, that's just what it averages out to be. So you can't base your department or your hiring practices or something on that smallest percentage of your super high performers. You got to base it on that middle portion. You want consistency day in, day out, but you got to have everybody. You got to have the people that are just there because they're going to do the things that need to be done that aren't glamorous, that just are kind of, okay, I moved this sandbag from over here to over there, but it had to be moved.
I don't disagree with you, Jeremy, but do the citizens deserve that? Or is it the job's responsibility to continue however many processes it take, and we only get the top 10 each time? Is it our responsibility as the department to provide these citizens the best of the best of the best? I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying it is. God damn it! I'm like, is it?
It's just, it doesn't work that way. I get where you're trying to go with that.
Because why? Because we've allowed it not to work that way?
No, that's just because there are not that many high performers. Like, you can't. Like, the big, like, even just take one large metropolitan fire department. Let's say they've got 2,000, 3,000 fucking people, right? And they are all rock stars. You can't find that many people that are rock stars at every level. Like, they are the pinnacle of the fire service. You're not going to have them all in one department. That's just like every NFL team.
That's what I was going to talk about the NFL. I mean,
that's
what you want.
You are never going to have on your NFL team, you are never going to have the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 wide receiver at every wide receiver position, because you got 5 of them. You're never going to have all the number 1 tight ends. Like, there's a number system because that's how shit works. There's only one number 1. You're either first or you're last, right, Ricky Bobby? Like, you have to have those linemen in the trenches that, maybe they didn't get picked till the 6th round, but they are solid.
Or you're the last person picked and you take your team to the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
And come within seconds of winning.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, there aren't that many people that are super high performers. There's a reason that they're an anomaly, and there's a reason that they're people to aspire towards. Right? Because you have, like, not everybody can go and be a Green Beret. Not everybody can go and be a Navy SEAL.
Do you think that's the same methodology applies to Navy SEALs and Green Berets? Do you think there's 80% of them that are just there?
100%.
But their efficiency, we would say, over their counterparts
is way better. Right?
You want to be a success, you make the people around you better. No matter what the issue is, no matter what's going on, you don't give up on them, and you push them to be better. And that's how you succeed.
That's how the Bulls won 6 championships.
What if we did that before they ever got here? That's like,
it's not going to happen.
Is it? Because, like,
You're still talking about getting the top performers. It's not going to happen.
But what top performers in what? In the fire service or in the city? Right? It's easy. The NFL analogy works because there's only so many NFL players,
and
there's only 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
When there's 500,000 people in a city, are we losing top performers to other jobs other than the fire service? What are we in the fire service? Like maybe or
Right.
law enforcement? Like
Yeah. But then look at it this way, though, James.
Did we reach them too late?
Yeah. Well, not everybody wants to do this job, and not everybody's suited to do this job. Just because you're a high performer doesn't mean you're going to be a high performer here. Like, you give me, I don't know.
You got to be a little crazy to be in law enforcement and the fire service, the military.
Give me Aaron Rodgers. Probably not a high performer in the fire service. Right? He's just probably not. But he's going to be a high performer on the.
I'm open to that debate.
He's going to be
whether or not Aaron Rodgers would be. We could do a whole episode of like professional athletes.
Yeah, but you know what I'm getting at, though. Just because you're a high performer in one area doesn't mean you're a high performer in another. And we see that in the fire service and police departments. You see people who are super high performers on the street.
And what's funny is within our service, we take the super high performers and make them the outlier.
Yeah. And
squirrels, jackasses.
Yeah. But you can be a super high performer on the street, but then let's say you get promoted to an admin position where you're sitting behind a desk and doing stuff, and all of a sudden you're not a super high performer anymore because that's not where your skill set is. It doesn't mean that you don't want to do a good job. It just means you don't have the skills to be a super high performer there. And it's just, no matter how much training and all that stuff, it's just, that's not in your wheelhouse.
When you got promoted, both of you, when you got promoted captain, would you say you had the skill set to be a leader? Did you have the skill set that it required for the position on day one when you walked in?
Oh, hell no.
Okay, perfect. Chris, you wouldn't.
Hell no.
You wouldn't say you did. You wouldn't say you did either.
But that is
no. But I would say I was ahead of Jeremy.
I'm fine.
I don't mean that as a dig at all. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just different experiences and what I've learned over the education I received.
But
that I went and earned.
Once you guys got in your positions,
because it gave me a different perspective and outlook and everything.
I think maybe in certain areas,
and I think where we were in our careers and places we worked, because I mean, even though we worked together a lot, there was times where we worked in different places, and it gives you a different perspective.
I don't think it gives you that different of a perspective from a leadership standpoint.
It depends. I may be more apt to follow Chris being a medic than you. Not that I wouldn't. I'm saying it's who am I gravitating towards that I know that could lead me based off my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Chris.
Now, if you want to talk about truck work, I know, and because you have a construction background, I would defer to you. It's just it's what areas are we talking about,
right?
But I would say overall,
the medic thing kind of helps.
That helps a lot with what we do in the fire service.
And we're not, but we're also not.
This isn't me talking shit on you right now. It's
you can talk all the shit you want, man.
Oh,
you know when I'm talking shit. It's just different experiences create a different leader.
But what did you guys once you got in those positions of leadership? Once you guys got in those positions of leadership, what did you do?
Fucking learn.
That's my point. You guys worked once you got you guys. Yeah, you didn't have the skill sets when you got there, but you got the opportunity, and then it was your responsibility to continue and grow on that. So when you said people don't promote up in leadership because their skill set was in the field. Bullshit.
No. So you're taking an individual experience and trying to apply it as a whole. And I'm talking about.
Are you saying I'm taking your individual experiences?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying you guys did what was correct for the position. You got in it.
Right. But what I'm saying is there are people out there who don't have that capability. You're trying to paint everybody with, you got promoted, then you should just be able to do this. You should be able to learn this skill and all that stuff. And I don't necessarily disagree with you, but what I'm saying is there are people that they just can't.
But I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with education and classes, whether it's a class that your department gives you or the fire service as a whole, or you have the initiative to go get the education on your own.
That's why I was leaning. I was leaning more towards
now
work ethic.
Those things can lead into you being more prepared for whether it's being promoted to driver or getting your medic license or captain, battalion chief, deputy, whatever, and on up. So if you just kind of like, some people don't agree with an education background for certain positions. Okay. But then you're going to get what you get. And they're not prepared and they're going to fuck shit up because they don't know. Now, if you've been exposed to it because you had an education, and a lot of those classes center around that kind of stuff, and like, the management administration part, you've been exposed to, you kind of know what to expect. So you're not a fish out of water.
Right.
So if you and I went into administration today,
oh God,
who do you think would
help us
do better right now?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not an admin person.
No, but
through
education,
that's my point though. That's
through the education that I've earned and I received because I took it upon myself to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
It changes that outcome.
Jeremy, let me ask you, why are you
my point was there are some people who just don't have that capability.
No, I think anybody can learn any job. Now,
not everybody can be a fucking astronaut, Chris.
Oh yeah, you can.
I feel
they give you the formula on the paper. I watched Apollo 13 the other day again for the empty time, and they just put numbers in. What's that reading over there? Okay, it's got my formula. Boom, it's 4.
How many times? Well, hear me out though. Like, how many times do we talk about missed opportunities? Right, like 12-year-old is gunned down playing on the sidewalk, and we're like, he had the potential to do great things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have done this, they could have done that. The potential.
Mm-hmm.
But we do this. This could be as a world problem, but like we do a poor job of catering that potential, right? Like, are we going to? So as a fire service, right? Should we go to a kindergarten class and say, "Hey, we're going to train"? We're like, start thinking about being a firefighter. It's not applicable to a kindergarten class. But if we go to a kindergarten flag football team, say it's even co-ed, right? Now we know, like, this is kind of what we're after. The team mindset, the group participation in a larger, like, we don't have to start training all of kindergartners to be firefighters from day one. But we could start planting the seeds in kids that have already identified themselves as long as that path continues of being appropriate in this. We can go... Hell, just take the fucking fire truck out to your local flag football game. Let the kids go play football, and then, like Chris has said, interact with the community. Let them look at the fire truck afterwards. Now, you're identifying kids right off the bat that participate in team activities and solve problems as a group, and you're marketing your department. Like, and so all of a sudden now, those, like, high, whatever we want to identify as the top 5,
we don't know what kids are going to want to do. We don't know what high schoolers want to do in school.
No, but we plant the seeds. That's what I'm saying. We plant the seeds. Mine was planted in 2nd grade. I remember right when and where it was to this day. We plant the seeds. That's the most important thing. And all of a sudden now, we have a higher likelihood of getting those top 5 in whatever category we want to put them in because we've planted the seed everywhere and they know it's an option. How many do we lose because they don't even know it's an option?
We'll never know that number.
It's easy to say, oh, it'll never be a fucking astronaut. But, like, what if we just started training kids to be astronauts at 5 years old?
I could be an astronaut.
You know what I mean? Like, just imagine, like, what if, like, and I'm not saying we, like, do the Spartan program where we kidnap kids and modify them and turn them into, like, super lethal firefighters down the road. But I'm just saying, like, what if, like...
That'd be awesome.
It kind of would. But I'm saying, like, what if we just did a better job right off the bat of just planting the seed and the influence?
Well, that goes back to what Chris was saying earlier.
Everything you talk about is outreach, man.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's outreach. Being in the community.
Being
visible.
Having your department sponsor flag football teams or youth baseball teams or, that stuff that gets you visible in the community. Now, with a larger city, it's a little bit different, but with a smaller municipality, but absolutely.
But this is where having, with bigger departments, having outreach teams works. Because then you can go to those events.
Not works. Big of a deal. Is necessary, is vital. Like, they are, you could make an argument that your fucking outreach team is just as important as your group of paramedics. While your paramedics save the citizens, your outreach team saves the department.
Mm-hmm. It's like paramedics save lives, EMTs save paramedics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a saying, there's that saying for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the same thing with outreach. I mean, I think at this point within the podcast, we know that I'm very pro outreach.
I mean, I think all three of us are, truthfully.
And I don't think as a fire service we do enough, ever. You know, it's not so much just it's going that extra mile when you don't have to.
Because here's what, like, police department kind of has this figured out, right? They have a lot of police departments have PALs, the Police Athletic League. Because if you do it right, you're then removing a lot of these kids from situations that cause the trauma that then become problems for the department later on. And then with proper outreach, you're reducing the need to even have this conversation of like, yeah, there's always going to be outliers and kids are hurt. Kids, a kid could be in a bad wreck as a kid when his parents were driving and it caused trauma for him. But, the kids that have lost or seen violent, especially in inner cities, in the urban core, you get those kids out of the situations for them to see traumatic stuff, out of the traumatic living situations, away from the uncle that fucking touches them. And all of a sudden now, like, again, it's the EMT that saves the paramedic, the outreach program to the department. And on top of that, you're doing the right thing for your citizens. Mm-hmm. You're helping your citizens without ever even rolling a fire truck in the front up to the front yard.
You're actually doing public safety at that point. That's what it is. And it's being proactive and protecting your citizens and visitors to the city. That's what we do.
Yet
That's what we're here for. We're here to help.
Yet we as a service, as an industry, have not prioritized this. And it's fucked us. Like, not only is it probably hurt our recruiting, it's just hurt our what's the R word? Retention. Yeah. And we've got nobody to blame ourselves. And guess what? I guarantee you, 10 years ago, these conversations were being had around the kitchen table. Yeah, guarantee it. And what's even more upsetting is the same people having those conversations around the kitchen table, recognizing that it was going to be a problem, are now in the positions to have the most influence over the problem that they predicted 10 years ago, and nothing gets done.
Yeah, but again, like, different perspective about it. Like, yeah, do I agree something needs to be done? Absolutely. Do I need policies and procedures need to be put in place? Absolutely. Do we need to start doing this shit? Absolutely. But also, it's not just us. Like, that's what I'm trying to tell you and make you understand is we don't have the control that you think we have.
I don't think we have the control.
Everybody has to be on board. Like, whenever there is a decision that has to be made and something like this, like, hey, let's start this thing or whatever. Great. Fire department's on board. Union's on board. City manager goes, we don't really have the money for that. Or the city council goes, we don't see the need for that. Like, everybody has to be on board and there has to be a plan for anything to happen.
But that's where I say it comes back to the most influential figure being the fire department, right? Tomorrow, like, we could bring these things tomorrow and be like, this is all the things we need to do. And they might be like, no, right? But you got to plan 10 years down the road. You just got to start marketing to your community. So if you do this, like, say you implement all of Chris's nice plans, right? In 10 years, it's a lot easier to get the things we want done when we've educated our community. We've educated the citizens. We've brought on the best of the job. And all of a sudden, the tide has turned in our favor, right? Like, what's the phrase? You don't steer a battleship.
Yeah, you're just moving at a degree at a time.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, like, this was the problem 10 years ago that we didn't make the investment then. Mm-hmm. And now we're sitting here going, we don't know why it works, but we got to do this overnight to solve it. And we're still missing the big picture of, like, no, we have to invest 10 years from now. So when we need the politicians and the community and everything on our side, we've planted that seed and let it grow where the fire department's influence has grown for us to get the things done we need to. We're not doing that.
I still think you can still hire the middle of the pack person that could be one of your highest performers. You just don't know. Some standardized test that you give them is not going to tell you that. I can tell you that right now. Standardized tests don't fucking work.
Well, I don't think we were talking about standardized tests. We were talking about psychological tests.
But it's going to be standardized.
Well, yeah, it is a standardized.
What do they do for the police? Is it for the police department? Is it still standardized? I know, like, at least our local police department, they have a specific person that does the interview. Are we call it an interview test?
Yeah, it's an interview.
Yeah.
Psychological interview.
Yeah, like it's. So I'm sure. Well, there's. I'm sure there's
like Meet the Fockers where he's holding your.
Yeah. So there is usually there's two parts to that. They have to take
they do the MMPI, don't they?
Yeah, they do the MMPI, and then there's a interview portion of it as well with a psychologist.
Are we calling that standardized, or are we calling the standards standardized? Is weird. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
Right.
Like, are we creating a? I think
that is the
fall
industry standard. Now, as far as what their scores have to be, that I can't tell you because it probably varies by every department.
So what's more efficient? Like, so you were talking about like some made up trauma score, right? If we say if it's over this, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Is to Chris, kind of to cater to you, what you said is a window. Would you consider a window standardized? Like, we want our applicants to fall within
the normal range.
A normal range? Are we saying the normal range is
I think it depends on, are the questions the same across the board? Because if they're the exact same, if the three of us go in and take the same test, and it's all the same exact same questions, then yeah, it's a standardized test. Just like when we took them in high school or middle school, or whatever that was, where you had to take the state test. That was a standardized test to see what you learned over the year, so your school can get funding. It doesn't show how smart you really are or what you really know. Can you retain information?
Because then the argument can be made in a standardized test. It doesn't show how traumatized you really are or how angry you really are.
Yeah, because they can be beat.
Yeah.
You can beat those.
No, absolutely.
It's not hard.
That test is predicated on the assumption that you will answer honestly.
So, Jeremy, you know me, right? Like, pretend you don't know how I am on the job.
Mm-hmm.
If I came in the door saying I had severe PTSD from the homicide of my mom and unprocessed anger and emotion, I don't mean like some things were unprocessed. I mean, none of it was truly processed. And I'm saying all this has been unprocessed. I tend to get angry a lot. I'm really God, what's the word?
Self-absorbed?
No. Self-sabotaging. I'm self-sabotaging.
Mm-hmm.
Would you hire me? Like, it's easy. It's easy to say, like, those things helped make me the paramedic I am today.
So do you remember? So every year they do this for the NCAA tournament, right? For March Madness, where they'll put multiple schools up, like 3 schools, and you'll see their record.
First 4 in, first 4 out type shit?
No, not even that. It's just 3 random schools.
Mm-hmm.
They'll all have the same record. Their RPI is really close. Their SOS is really close. It's like, which one gets in? And they'll pick one, and you'll see them, and it's like some mid-major is the one you picked. Duke is one, and then, I don't know, pick another school. But
Kentucky.
Okay, pick Kentucky. So the SEC was weak that year. This mid-major plays in a nothing conference, and then the ACC was really strong. But you picked the mid-major because of what the numbers told you, but that wasn't an accurate story.
Right.
Because that mid-major plays in a shit conference and didn't play anybody.
Right.
But Duke over here played a bunch of good teams. Kentucky played okay teams that year.
As they traditionally,
you know what I mean? So that's where, when you're looking at, like, with what James is saying about, I had this,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't tell the whole story. That tells a part of a story.
Right.
Of him. That doesn't mean we should,
And so here's where I'm going to steer it. So you had all that go on. It's terrible, right? And you've been honest and you've said it all and blah, 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 right? Now it is the department, whoever, it's their job to go, okay, James, that's a lot of trauma, right? So this is what you're going to see as a firefighter paramedic. You're going to see mothers that have been shot in front of their kids. You're going to see kids that got ran over by their dad. You're going to see elderly abuse. You're going to see this. You're going to see that. You're going to see all of these things. We're going to try to prepare you for that as best we can. But it's going to be on you to take care of your own mental health. Or you have the other side of it of, okay, we don't really care. You want the job or not? Just try not to be a problem. So, do you want the job?
For me, to me, both sound bad
Mhm.
because you know me, right?
Mhm.
For the most part, I can fake it till I make it quite well for a period of time, not forever.
Mhm.
So I can be like, yeah, show me whatever. And it's one of those things too of like, yeah, here, even if it was, we're going to show you pictures of dead mothers next to their kids to get you in preparation for it.
Mhm.
Okay. I play Grand Theft Auto. Okay. But it's, again, that actual experience of like the sight, the smell,
Mhm.
the sounds that we know like really influence these situations. And it's, it's that smell that you're going to smell again that triggers that reaction. And or let me even put it on a smaller scale for you, Jeremy. If you've got that, my resume and you've got the resume of was a firefighter for a well-known department for 5 years before that, just moved here because his wife got a better job, great work ethic, highly respected from all of his peers and everything else, right? Your choice, your captain, your crew, who you taking? I think the smart move would be like you take the one with the better reputation for the ease of building a crew.
Yeah.
But again, you're not telling the whole story.
Yeah. Because then the flip side is that guy have a cocaine problem that's going to make a first round exit by a 15 seed? Or do you have you take your gamble on the 11 seed NC State that then makes it to the Final Four that is actually the rock star member of your crew?
That's making your employees better. And that's the goal. That's how you become a great department at a great company or whatever you want to talk about, team. Because you make people better that are around you because you invest in them. And this is where we go back to mental health help, education, classes, setting them up for success instead of, hey, good luck, fucker.
Yeah. Well, it's investing in them and holding them to a standard.
That too.
So
when you say hold them to a standard, do you mean hold their hand or hold them to a standard?
No, I mean hold them to a fucking standard. If they fuck up,
there's discipline.
It's hey. And I'm not talking about being like some hard ass and motherfucking them in front of somebody and all of this shit. No. Okay, look, you made a mistake. Cool. We're going to talk about it. Now we're going to train.
So you're saying that's the discipline, like the discipline?
That's the first step.
Or consequence.
Yeah.
The consequence could be positive or negative. So we can say the consequence of the action. Yeah. So I'm all for if we want to say.
I think it depends on what the action is.
Yeah, but.
This is 100% dependent on what happened. Like, this is just a broad blanket statement of something that's not serious.
Just like when we were kids, there was times I just got a talking to. There's times I got screamed at with an ass chewing. There's times I got a whooping.
Yeah.
Just depending on what I did and what I deserved.
Yeah.
And is it accumulative? What was Monday my talking to? And then Tuesday was my ass chewing. And then Thursday, fucking had enough of you and whap, got a spanking.
Well, yeah.
And, because the timeout didn't work, the grounding didn't work.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. It was progressive.
Yeah. If it's the same mistake over and over again.
Or I might just keep fucking up. Because sometimes, talk to your blue in the face, but you got to move on. And then you got to move on. Even if they're different mistakes.
Yeah.
Because it's accumulative.
Yeah.
So I think wrapping it up, then probably would we all agree that some sort of at least increased screening should take place? Not necessarily maybe not necessarily for a hire versus no hire, but
I like what Jeremy said where it gives you a baseline to keep a watch on somebody's mental health. That way you don't have the issues and we can probably start curbing the suicide issues and the substance abuse issues earlier. I mean, you're still going to have things that happen, but you can maybe get a handle on it. You can identify the problem and start taking the steps necessary to help somebody early, which is what we do.
Well, and that's the thing of, yes, have something that indicates a baseline It's, that test, I don't necessarily like it or agree with it or whatever. I think it's pretty easy to fudge, but at least it gives you something. And for lack of a better option, that's what we got. Also, do a better job of preparing people before they get out in the field, which we've talked about that until we're blue in the face. The fire service as a whole does not do a good job of preparing people for what they're going to see when they come into the field. So we need to do a better job of that. And I think that curbs a lot of problems as well.
It's funny because we talked about I think we talked a lot about on the front end of what we can identify to help, but we could probably make a whole nother 2-hour episode on how to implement it as we go. Because you said, we at least need it for the baseline.
Yeah.
Agree.
These are just
what are we doing to check in?
Yeah.
Before oh my God, look, he's done this crazy thing and God, his score is off the roof. Well, did we check to see if it had been rising over the last 8 years, or did we just get surprised that it was this here?
It's like yearly physicals.
Just opinions, man. This is,
Yeah.
Well, what the fuck do we know, right?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I just want to prepare people and do better. I like the 24-hour clone principle, man. I really like that.
Glad you like it. I made it up all by myself.
No, you didn't. Don't steal somebody else's work. Plagiarizer.
I always say my final thoughts today, by the way, I have learned that Chris is better than Jeremy. That's it. That's all I got.
Man, that feels so good to hear. My head's just getting a little big here.
The order of promotion and the distance between promotion says otherwise.
It just shows you how flawed the system is.
Yeah.
Promote the problems.
Hey, man. Can't beat them, join them.
That's right. I'm happy you got promoted when you did.
I am too.
He was the canary. We're like, go down there and see what it's like, then report back.
Oh, this ain't so bad, guys.
You lied. You lied to it. No, just kidding.
All right. Chris, final thoughts? Anything?
Keep trying to make things better around you. That's all you can do. If you treat people right and you do what's right or what you think is right, you'll never be wrong.
I mean, there's been wars started over that just because I think it's right. I get where you're going, but I'm playing Mr. Opposite like you were earlier.
Yeah.
Fire departments fight to the death for funding.
I mean, that's just it. If you treat people right in the right way, the way they should be treated, so with respect, and you try and do what's ethically and morally correct, you'll be fine. You'll make things better.
Yeah, I agree.
My grandpa, the thing I hated hearing the fucking most as a kid was leave it better than you found it. Like everything I did, it applied that way. Like if I cleaned my room or participated in a project or borrowed something from a friend, it was leave it better than you found it. And I fucking hated that saying for a long time. But I think it kind of goes with what Chris is saying. Like if you just get on this job and your goal at a minimum is just, hey, I'm going to leave this place better than I found it. You've benefited the fire service, your community, and yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Outreach works.
It does. So, all right, everybody. I think they pretty much wrapped it up better than I can. So, thanks for stopping by.
We're better.
If you're struggling, reach out. There are resources out there. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out. Let them know that you care. Let them know what resources are out there. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.